Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the 30 on 30. Today we're talking about the Baltimore Orioles. Yes, we're going to exotic Camden Yards, and it's actually one of the better ball fields for hitters, particularly lefty hitters. But it's a haven for home runs. So great stadium, but a team that's kind of undergoing a massive rebuild. I mean, they've traded away a lot of their players. They still have some veterans, and they've got some talent, but they traded, starting pitcher last year, Michael Givens, I think to Colorado. They still have Chris Davis. They did move on from Jonathan Villar, all-world player, and some other players as well. But they've got Adley Rutschman as one of the top catching prospects in the generation coming up, and a bunch of young prospect depth too. And they do have a top 15 farm, so their minor league system is in the top 15, the top half of baseball. So I can see them giving a lot of their prospects, or some of their prospects, I should say, a chance at the majors to see how well they pan out, while surrounding them with a couple of new additions as well as the ones that they already have. So what do I think? And by the way, this is 30 on 30. I'm going over every baseball team every single day for those of you who don't know. Just identifying their needs, what I think they should do, and predicting what I think they'll actually do. So I've done the Central in the description down below. All the teams in the West already, they're all done. Take a look in the description down below, and take a look at my MLB free agent predictions and my MLB trade ideas as well. My contract predictions, they're all in the description down below. So if you're a baseball fan, this channel's for you. Subscribe right now. Hit that notification next to it. I thank you anyway. Let me know if you do, so I can thank you personally in the comments. It's you folks that make this channel awesome, so I appreciate all of you. So back to Baltimore. Starting pitching, bullpen, and I think DH/infield are kind of the major needs that I see them having, or ones that they can address most easily in this particular market. There's a lot of free agents, and I think a lot of teams are going to be able to get players on not on the cheap, but for reasonable short-term contracts due to the financial lack of financial health of Major League Baseball right now. They're kind of just clawing their way back to back to normal. And I said this in other videos. I can see this season, 2021, being a kind of 120 game season as a step back to 162 because of an uncertain world and just not knowing where we're going to be 6 months from now and 8 months from now. So I could see that happening with an abbreviated number of fans over time as well, maybe gradually increasing fans. But so for starting pitching, I think it would be a good idea, to bring in somebody like Jose Quintana. He's with the White Sox and he's with the Cubs. He just finished his long-term contract, or his big contract. He's a lefty veteran. He's still got baseball in him. He pitches good control. He doesn't give up a ton of runs. He keeps the ball on the ground, and he'd be a good veteran presence to add into that rotation. Could I see them bringing in the second person? Yeah, I could. Do I think it's a good idea? Yeah, I do. Particularly Baltimore. I think they're kind of like Tampa Bay was a bunch of years ago, where they were bad, and then they got a bunch of 5 years in a row or 10 years in a row, got number 1, number 2, number 3 picks. That's where the Baltimore Orioles are right now. They're going to get a bunch of high picks. Hopefully a lot of them pan out, and then all of a sudden they'll be hopefully contending again, or a lot more competitive at least. So bringing in veterans like this would be a good way to complement some of the younger players and players that they already have. So Jose Quintana for starting pitching. Going over to the relief or the bullpen, Tyler Clippard I think would be a good fit for them. And some other, there's a lot of relievers available this offseason. Keone Keela and a bunch of other guys I think he'd be a good fit too. But Tyler Clippard I think would slide right into the bullpen, give them extra depth, extra protection. And again, this is the time right now to capitalize on depth pieces. Get some extra players, since they're not going to cost a ton, or likely not going to cost a ton. Bring in 2 of them instead of 1 if you can. So give you some extra protection. That way the younger guys who are coming up aren't having to be pressured, or you're not having to accelerate, or they're not having to accelerate them faster than they probably should. So it's just a thought. It's my opinion, but in terms of letting people, and I work with athletes, and I've done it for 2 decades, gradual progression is key. So, and I think the same applies for baseball. I'm not rushing people beyond what they're ready for. So, so hopefully they do that. I do think they still have Chris Davis. He kind of found his stroke a little bit. I mean, even though he went 0 for 2019 or whatever the hell it was, he rediscovered his stroke. But I think somebody to complement him so that he can alternate for first base and DH. Somebody like Carlos Santana from the Cleveland Indians, or formerly of the Cleveland Indians, you bring him in, and they can alternate first base and DH. And I think it would be a good pairing between the two. To take some of the load off Chris Davis. Santana can give him some extra protection, and he won't have to be on the field as much. So, and again, a veteran presence that probably would not cost a ton of money. So, those are the things that I think they probably should do. And I think it would be, a pretty reasonable package of people for them to bring in. And it's, as well as some other folks as well. But I think those three would be probably the most gettable for them. Now, in terms of what I think they'll actually do, I think they'll bring in a starter like Mike Leake, who's been around for a while, been a veteran. He's had a mediocre career for the most part. He was a highly touted starter a couple years ago, but he's another guy who can fit in like Jose Quintana. I can see them bringing in both. But I can see them bringing in Leake more than I can see them bringing in Santana at this point. I see Quintana as a better fit somewhere else. And so Leake, someone in the rotation to add, and maybe another veteran, like I said, or a trade for somebody. They have a decent farm. They can make a trade for a starter, even if it's like a Joe Musgrove from the Pirates or something like that, who would cost a little bit. He's young, but that's why you make trades like that. You use some of your farm capital to bring in a controllable starter, okay? But it's just a thought, because at some point they're going to want to invest it because they're going to want to contend. Yes, I know they're pretty far behind the rest of the AL East right now, which is kind of getting stronger by the year, and deeper by the year, and with some young teams like the Blue Jays just kind of developing, and Boston, we don't really know what they're going to be. They'll probably be better than they were this year, but Baltimore and Boston, they could easily make a few moves and surpass some teams. It's happened before. So Mike Leake, I see them bringing in somebody like him for the rotation. For the bullpen, I see somebody like Trevor Rosenthal, who's with San Diego, who's with other teams. He's a righty, dependable arm. He's a power arm, and another, a good addition to the bullpen. I could see them bringing in a second reliever as well, righty or lefty. Tony Watson or somebody like that. But I do have Trevor Rosenthal kind of being the guy for them, based on recent predictions. And now, keep in mind too, if some of my predictions here are different than the ones in my free agent predictions video, it's mainly because that was like almost a month ago. Okay, things have changed. A couple of guys have signed. The landscape is trying to change a little bit. Teams' outlooks are changing a little bit. So I may have updated some of my minor predictions, but my bigger ones still remain. So make sure you watch that free agent predictions video. If you haven't, you'll know exactly where I have them going. But Trevor Rosenthal, I see him being a good fit in their bullpen. And you bring in a Leake, you bring in a Rosenthal, they're better than they were before. And the idea is not to be, again, in my opinion, it's not to be perfect. It's to be better than they were last year. Gradual improvement, okay? And I think that's the only way they can go, unless they're going to invest a ton of money all of a sudden and try to bring in some major free agents. This is the way to go. And again, instead of spending a lot of money on two guys, they can spread that around and get 5 or 6 guys to cover multiple positions, give them depth, give them protection, give them versatility. So and I can even see somebody like a Tommy La Stella coming in and playing multiple positions. Okay, he's a good fit everywhere, just like Jurickson Profar is a good fit in so many teams. La Stella would be a great fit here. He can kind of be their Jonathan Villar. They didn't have, or they can bring back Villar as well. They could do that too. He was beloved there, and he was one of their better players. I have him going elsewhere, but I would not be surprised if he was brought back to Baltimore. Wouldn't. Okay, and for the DH role, instead of a Carlos Santana, I have them actually bring Edwin Encarnacion. Okay. He's just like Santana, who's older, but I can see him, maybe doing his final year in Baltimore. He was average in the White Sox, but here he can, and again, he can alternate with Chris Davis or just be the full-time DH. And this would be an opportunity for him to go out, potentially go out with a bang in a very attractive hitter's park. And he's a hitter, obviously. And who doesn't want to see that parrot one more year when he runs around with the home run? So I think he'd be a good fit there too. And again, if you look back at the list, bringing in Leake, bringing in Rosenthal, bringing in Encarnacion, yes, 3 veterans, but the team will be better if they brought them in, and that's the bottom line, to get better. Okay? They might make some bold moves, like I said, but they might not. So, and these are kind of, again, gettable players. That's why I have them on this list in terms of the should and the predictions. That I think both sides are gettable, okay, or a combination of them. So that's my list for the Baltimore Orioles. That's my video for them, I should say. We're going to go back to the National League, and where are we going to go next? We're going to go to Washington, okay, the 2019 World Champions. Okay, and that's going to be an interesting video. You're not going to want to miss that. So hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification if you haven't yet done so. All right, and we'll go to the nation's capital. I'll see you there next time.